think everyone has gotten far too PowerPoint dependent as the only way that we can ever put any presentation together. And what's happened now to an awful lot of new, old, in-between professors, and most of us, when we're doing any kind of a presentation, whether it's for an academic conference like this, whether it's for a class, is that how we put the presentation together tends to be to open a new PowerPoint. That's how we start. Okay, I'm going to do my presentation now. Open a new PowerPoint presentation and start. Unfortunately, what we often end up doing when we do that is we make our own list of speakers' notes or points that in a pre-PowerPoint generation would be typed on a computer even and printed out or handwritten and put on the table in the front of the room or put on the podium or put somewhere and used as speaking notes in order to engage and talk to the audience, whether that's a class or academic conference. Now that all of the presentations in the world appear to be on PowerPoint, many people don't make that really critical next step, which is take all those wonderful notes, and if you are making them for notes for your students, my philosophy is I'd rather have them listening to me talk than writing notes to the point where they're not even hearing me, so I'm good with giving them skeleton notes. But really, to make a good presentation, we almost need to then take that, turn that into our speaker's notes, and PowerPoint can turn into notes, and then do another generation of our PowerPoint, which is just things to support what we're saying. And the reason we mostly don't do that is because we don't have time. You know, we're making our very last content slide on the plane on the way to the conference or on the bus on the way to class, and you get it, and up it goes. So we get a lot of PowerPoint that is really just nothing but outlines of what we're going to talk about. Students are used to them now. You even go to an academic conference like this and try to stand up and talk without some kind of PowerPoint behind you, people are uncomfortable. People have gotten uncomfortable looking at a person talking. They're much more comfortable looking at this. So there needs to be a way to make whatever your interactive presentation with your audience and your own level of engagement and activity that you can hand back to them work in unison with the audiovisual support that can be very powerful that is PowerPoint. If it's not just a series of notes. And the worst level of that, and you've all seen it, is the person who spends the entire presentation like this, talking, reading, generally, their entire PowerPoint slide one line at a time. Now, most of us can actually read to ourselves faster than people can read out loud. We had that thing about 10 years ago in PowerPoint that was progressive revelation. Some people still use it, which is you've got 10 points, so every time you click, one more point comes on. We used to, on the old overheads, put a piece of paper over things and slide it down. It's all a matter of how you do it. However, the issue with that makes people really quite annoyed, generally. You may have noticed over the last 10 years that a lot of the animation on PowerPoint has gone away. We used to have things zooming in and flipping up and sliding in and making great crashing noises when they came. And things tend to have gotten a little more static. Templates were a big deal for years. There were those few PowerPoint templates and that little bit of clip art, you know, the little character people with the oval heads that were on everything. And a lot of that seems to have gone away to something that's a little more subtle and a little more targeted, because PowerPoint doesn't wow people anymore. You can embed audio and video in PowerPoint. You can do all kinds of funky things in PowerPoint now, and most people are used to seeing it. Although some of the best PowerPoint presentations I have ever seen are ones with no words whatsoever. Somebody's teaching art history. They can have a tremendous PowerPoint presentation that is just slides of works of art. Maybe it's a diagram or a demonstration or something that builds, or maybe it's a phrase or a quote that is important to the presentation, so it's worth it. What we know about students is that students expect PowerPoint. If you don't have PowerPoint, we have some really engaging lecturers who can hold them for 2 or 3 hours. But in general, what they will see your lack of PowerPoint as is that you have not prepared your class, is that you are lazy and couldn't be bothered to get anything ready. It's not necessarily the case, and we still have profs who use this green board or who use nothing. But the perception on the part, especially of our early now entering undergraduate students who are seeing PowerPoint in the high schools all the time, and everywhere else, and who are making their own PowerPoint presentations right from about grade 6 onward to deliver in high schools, they expect it. The form it has to take is a different thing. We also know that students absolutely expect to get some form of notes now. Now that doesn't always work for everybody, depending on your preparation style for your classes. Some of us are prepping the class the night before the class. Or we like to wait till the last minute, especially if we're teaching things in a whole number of disciplines like political science, where we want to wait until today's paper to see what we're going to be integrating into class tomorrow. There's a lot of reasons why we don't want to have everything canned 3 weeks in advance. But students want those slides ahead of time. And what often they'll say is, well, I'm going away on Thursday, can I get the slides on Monday? Do not feel bad if you don't have them done. Because what that does, people whose natural preparation for their class style, if it's not to have everything done 3 or 4 days in advance, and if it's not slides that are a series of note points, as in, sort of different levels of notes, that's going to force you into a teaching style that you're not comfortable with, and it's going to make you really boring because it's going to make you start reading slides. Because the people who read the slides the most are the ones who don't use them normally. And the worst, and then they start, you get that fascinated with the slides thing where all of a sudden somebody will stop teaching and kind of read. Like, wow. Like, you shouldn't look surprised at what you've actually put up there. In full electronic classrooms, unlike this one, what you'll have is you'll have a console with a screen. At least if you've got a screen in front of you, these rooms are a little bit different, or if you've got a laptop with you and open, you can keep your head turned toward the class and look at the screen. But you wouldn't believe how many people have got that big screen. It's on. It's in front of them. They're advancing the slides on the keyboard connected to the screen, and they still turn around and read the slide. Even though it's like they just can't believe it's the same thing in both places. So if there's one thing you can teach yourself, if you're using PowerPoint and you're using slides, look at the screen. In this case you can't, clearly. But look out, just get out of the habit of this. And the worst thing I saw somebody do, I can't even remember where it was now, it was at a conference. And somebody was presenting a paper for somebody else, or they had used somebody else's slide set for part of this workshop present. It was a workshop. We paid money for it. I remember this now, I remember exactly where it was. And this guy spent 2 hours delivering somebody else's PowerPoint presentation that he clearly had not gone through before he started. Because people would ask questions about things and he'd have no idea. And there were things on there he just couldn't speak to. So if you're ever in a bind, it's really dangerous to just grit. Like, even if you're teaching in a discipline that we all know together in a room, taking somebody else's slide deck is a really bad thing to do. So you're better off to just say, you know what, I don't have slides today. If your students want copies of the slides for studying, there is no reason they can't get them after the class. And if you don't make them, if that's not how you teach, then don't worry about it. Tell them that. Make sure they have the right kind of study aids. But they will expect it. The other thing, outside of this wireless issue, or I guess connected to it, that we know because we've asked lots of students what they expect, and they expect their courses to be managed through a learning management system.